Hey everyone, this is Brian and welcome to my Power Case Strategic Appliance.
You are going to practice a realistic case interview. If you are watching this on YouTube, I want you to comment on this video with your actual responses. I will then reply back with my assessment of your response as either good or great.
Okay, let's get started. Our client is the new Senior Vice President of Large Appliances for a major home improvement retailer. Think like a Lowe's, Home Depot, or Menards. Now, although he recently joined the company, he already noticed something a bit odd in the dishwasher category. The dishwasher category had sales of $1.2 billion last year, and while the category is making a profit, its margin is below industry average levels based on his experience. So the client wants to know why the dishwasher category is not as profitable as he would expect, and how the company can improve their profitability in this category. So with that said, pause the video now and write down any clarifying questions you have. Okay, in regards to your first question on if our client has any specific profitability targets, no, they do not. In regards to your second question on how long this problem has been going on, we're not sure, but again, our client suspects that they are not in line with average profitability benchmarks. And last, in regards to your third question, our client and his competitors operate in the United States only. So go ahead and take a few moments to lay down how you would approach this problem. Okay, pause the video now, write down your structure, and then say it out loud. Now, I'm going to talk through an example of a good, typical case structure. So since this is a profit problem, I like to break down profit into its two component parts, so revenue and costs. And for revenues, I'd like to look at the price and the volume. And then for costs, I'd like to look at the fixed costs and the variable costs. And then for the competition, I'd like to understand who the competition is, what's the landscape like, and how do they compare to us. Now go ahead and let me know where you want to start and why. Pause the video for just a few moments. Write down your key questions that you like to explore and then say them out loud. Now, I'm going to talk through an example of a good, typical way of examining and uncovering. So for revenue, I like to understand it has volume or price changed for our client. For costs, I'd like to understand has our client seen any changes in its fixed costs or variable costs. And then for the competition, I'd like to know is what's the competitive landscape, how fragmented is it, how many players are there. So here are some answers to your questions. For revenue, in terms of revenue data, we do have an exhibit that you can take a look at in a little bit. I can tell you that we are in line on our fixed costs, and variable costs depend on the manufacturer of the dishwasher. So for a given manufacturer, we pay the same as our competitor does. For competition, they offer the same brands that we do, and they also sell their dishwashers at the same manufacturer's suggested retail price as we do. In terms of product mix, we'll take a look at that in an exhibit. Here's some data that the client just provided. Take a moment to look through. What are your preliminary observations and takeaways, and what other data would you like to know? Pause the video for just a few moments and talk out loud what you're seeing here. Now I'm going to talk through an example of a good, typical way of uncovering the nuggets. So I see that the margins on the GE products are one of the lowest, and yet we're selling 60%. So we're selling the most of it than any other brand that we sell. And we don't sell any store brands where the competition does. So that's interesting. That could be a potential opportunity to explore. And then it looks like we might want to shift our mix away from GE because we're selling so much more of it than the competition is, and that they're the lowest profitable product, one of the lowest profitable products. The client wants to calculate the impact on profit in dollar terms if they shift 20 of the 60 percentage points from GE. Assume 10 of those points go to Whirlpool and 10 of those points go to a new store brand. So pause the video for just a few moments and talk out loud your approach and math calculations. Now I'm going to talk through an example of a good, typical way to do the math. Okay, well, to get the incremental profit, I think I need to calculate the current state profit based on the mix today, and then the future state profit based on the new mix, and then I'll take the difference between the two to get the incremental profit. So let's see. So GE is getting us 1.2 billion times 6 over 10. So that is 7.2 billion over 10, which is 720 million times 13%, and 10% 72 million, and 3 would be 3 times 72, which is 621.6, plus the 72 is 93.6 million. Okay, so now I need to do Whirlpool of 1.2 billion times 20%, which is 1 over 5 times 1 over 3. So that is basically 1.2 billion over 15. So that is 12 over 15, which is 4 over 3, 5. So about 80 million. So I think exactly would be 79.2 million. Let me just double check. Yep. And then the store brand, we don't have any today, so that's 0. So now I'm just going to add the 3. So 93.6 plus 79.2, which is 8, 2, 1, carry the 1, 7, 1. So 172.8 million in profit today based on the current mix. All right, so now I got to do the future state profit. So it's going to be 1.2 billion times 4 over 10, which is 4.8 billion over 10, which is 480 million times 13%. So 10% is 48 million. Then 48 times 3 is 42, 12, 14, so 14. So 62.4 million. Okay, Whirlpool. So Whirlpool is 1.2 billion times 3 over 10 times 1 over 3. So it's 1.2 billion over 30. So that's like 12 over 30, which is like 4 over 10. Let me try that one again. So 1.2 billion times 3 over 10 times 1 over 3 equals 1.2 billion times 3 over 30. So that's about 120 million. To do the exact is 118.8. Yep. Okay, and then gotta do the store brand. So the store brand is 1.2 billion times 10%, so that's 120 million, and then 40% of that, so that would be 48 million, and then another 3 for every 420 would be adding another 50. Okay, so that would get me to 51.6 million. Great, and now I just add the 3, so 14, 8, carry the 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 2, carry the 1, 7, 8, 3, 2, carry the 1. All right, so that's 232.8 million. So now I need to subtract the 2. So 232.8 minus 172.8, so the 8's go out. 0 cancels, that's 0. Okay, so the incremental profit is $60 million from this mix change. Now, let's take a moment to discuss store brand. What factors may impact the decision on how to proceed, if at all, with the idea of creating our own store brand dishwasher. So pause the video for just a few moments and talk out loud and jot down some of your thoughts. Now, I'm going to talk through an example of a good, typical way of generating ideas. So the store brand seems like an interesting opportunity because margins are quite high, but there might be some costs that aren't captured, and the margin information on the exhibit, like the costs to actually do research and development and find the vendor to help build this in-house. So there might be a lot of operational costs and just cost in building the prototype and getting this to actually be something that we could grow at scale. So the margins are high, but it might not paint the full picture. Let's say the senior VP walks in and wants a quick overview of your findings and recommendations. What would you tell him? Now, I'm going to talk through an example of a good, typical recommendation. So product mix is why our profit was so much lower than the competition, and we sell too many of the GE dishwasher brand, which is one of the lowest margin products in the category. And we're not selling enough of other higher margin brands like Whirlpool, and we don't even have any store branded dishwashers, even though the competition does. And so, there are pros and cons for our store brand. So as long as we build the business case and do a cost benefit analysis, it could be an attractive opportunity to pursue.
Now that you finished the case, I want to remind you to comment on this video with your actual responses. I will then reply back and score each of your responses as either good or great. Go ahead and pause the video now so you can see how I would grade you. What you just saw was a realistic example among the top tier consulting firms. The responses that you heard are what I would consider to be good, but not great answers. Unfortunately, these merely good responses will not get you an offer from the top tier consulting firms. Given the intense degree of the competition, only great performance will virtually guarantee an offer. If you were to take away just one thing, it is this fact. The bar to pass is much higher than you think. You need to see and practice what great performance looks like. So to see the same case with a top 1% performance, just go to passthecase.com/great.